I'm also interested to see if the Huntress will be played like it's been played in the past. It was a very camp-heavy killer, getting your first down and then actually trying to convert that first hook into a kill. So that's been one of the reasons why Huntress gameplay maybe wasn't the favorite of all people, because it's been very one note with the camping, but I think with the changes that's been made, especially with the 7 headshots that tend to hit very well on ping, hello Acid, good morning, we could see some switch up in strategies.
Acid here instantly taking very early the injury. That is definitely not what you are expecting here. Obi coming out on the Huntress. Surprisingly to me, I was really expecting Xeno there. Maybe he forced his team member into making this spontaneous pick here. Acid going to move around. That's going to be the break of the pallet though. That will be a nice sound to hear in your bag. The pallet breaking, you know, you can take a little bit of distance, especially against the 4.4 killer, and the bus certainly not the easiest tile, but we're moving away from it, and a wonderful throw following up from Obi here. That's a good first down. He can feel very happy about that.
Well, first hook coming in, Acid being the one to be hooked, having a look at our generator progress. Do not be mistaken, these are 2 individual gens, so while none have popped yet, 2 are in the making with quite a lot of progress. That's not too bad. We do still have a ruin in play, so that's very fortunate for Obi. He can interrupt both of these gens continuously with these hatches. He has free line of sight on both of these. That's huge.
Yeah, Obi continues. Come, another one. Unfortunately not, but now he's gaining some confidence. Look at him playing the AVP of DBD. Yeah, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Benji, wake up. There's a headshot coming across the way. That is the second generator, but that is now big alert in the headquarter of Team Seraph, and Obi with the next one injury onto Jar. Hold me, ladies and gentlemen. What is happening? Elysium absolutely cranking.
Hold your horses, Kenji's already up and standing, but having 2 injuries. Acid, well, most likely dropping into second stage as well. There we go. The pressure Obi's putting out is amazing. The ruin coming into play perfectly, and it's also, you're also able to guard it while guarding your gens and the hook. The positioning of this first down has been a huge part in Obi having this great of a start of the first trial.
This is now a difficult reset basically already needed. You have 2 survivors injured that cannot really assist with the unhook and need to be really, really careful considering Obi is good with the snipes. Let's see again. Kenji, you cannot continue like this. Stop. What is happening? Just on the same position on the generator even. Blue, that cannot happen. When you get sniped like this, you cannot just sit back with your sandwich and your coffee on the same position and say, let's try again. You cannot do that to Obi.
This is no longer DBDLeague, this is the Obi show. They did get Acid on the hook, but how much more can you do? Kenji once again on the ground. You don't even know how far progress that gen was if they were trying to complete anything. They're currently in shambles. Honestly, if that happens, Acid on the ground now as well. You have 2 people on the floor. Jar being injured. Sock's the only one standing around. They're like, guys, what's going on? What is happening? I can't take care of all of this.
Yeah, I think we have an issue soon with our stream. It's currently flagged as Dead by Daylight. We might need to switch it to Counter-Strike because Obi is delivering the AWP tutorial here. Luckily, this one is not going to land because what we really need now is a longer mid-trial chase. We need some time for a reset onto Kenji and Jar. We need some time to reposition and re-coordinate ourselves among the generators generators here, because it is very certain we are looking towards a 4K if this trial continues to be like this. So we better get a longer chase, we better get some generator pressure in order to do some result cosmetic on that very first win condition, which is the number of completed generators here. And Jar is delivering exactly that. Beautiful dodges so far in this chase. Is he able to continue this a little bit hopping?
No.
He didn't see that?
No. Oh, he knows.
Okay, he knows.
I can't. This is too much for my heart. Jana going down. Not the successful head on. I'm losing every single one of my abilities. Can't even talk anymore. Jar going on the hook. A third generator being popped. Thankfully, another fresh coming out. I'm at a loss for words.
Yeah, this is soon we have to open ChatGPT and ask for 20 additional great adjectives to describe Obi here, because the entire list that we have so far is already empty. This is just peak gameplay, right? And it's the opening trial for Elysium into Season 10. This is their first match. And of course you want to have a good one. Of course you want to play a trial where you can say, this is a great start for Elysium. This is a great opening weekend. We want to carry this over. But if you start like this, that is a totally different story. We see the reset in the distance onto Jar now being healthy again, so that is definitely going to benefit them a little bit here, but we need a lot more work being done. We have a difficult hook location here. Obi is constantly able to stay relatively close to the active generators that Seraph is trying to pressure here. So it is actually going to be pretty reduced generator efficiency until we got the unhook and potentially pulled back one time to reset everyone.
If we're getting an unhook, because listen, against the Huntress that's camping, hard to not get into the trade, especially if you get an early hit. Jar now being found, trying to go back on the bus, vaulting the first window on Socks. Well, I guess kind of close, but they are committing to the gen. They know they're not getting out at this point. They need to get more and more gens done, because once again, a reminder for everyone, this is our first win condition. I mean, it's not realistic to get an out at this point in time, right?
I don't think anymore. We are definitely talking about the 4K with generators remaining, at least if Obi is able to continue his wonderful performance that we have seen here so far. Let's take a look. Obi trying here. Sock My Socks is around. Is the only healthy survivor, so really the one that can potentially move in. Nice dodge here, moving back into the generator, while Obi was expecting that he would just hold W away, but a quick reaction here, quick look back as well. That's going to be the unhook, but Obi is fully reloaded now, so we're gonna see a little bit of sniper action again. We can see Kenshi, Jar, and Sock My Socks will try to get away to the other side across the Shack quarter. They're trying to go for some resetting here, and that's definitely really needed. But I think one survivor, got actually stuck here. That is Jar again. That is not the location where you want to be chased right now.
For leaving Jar, we did see a crow flying down and the gen popping as well, so they did try to put even more pressure on. They're trying to not lose any of the progress on your gens, but that way you won't be able to go for the reset. However, on the counter side, if you go for the reset, well, all your progress will be lost due to Ruin. Ruin also being in the 3 gen is so detrimental to them right now. Socks now on the task to get as much time out of the way as possible, just barely dodging that hatchet. Well, or maybe barely missing the hatchet on Obi's side, but you don't have any resources for you. Only tires blocking the way, so Sock My Socks is on the floor again, but while they haven't reset, they did try to go for more generator pressure, but the pain res coming in.
Yeah, when things are not really working for you, then luck is not on your side either. Oh, Kenshi! Sorry that it seems like him. It's always Kenshi who's taking the absolute
He is him, but not in the good way. Sorry.
Very unfortunate for them here, taking one after the other. Jar, however, is doing a very important job for the team here. Unfortunately, though, the pain res is going to come in one last time, meaning that generator number 4 is not guaranteed anymore. And Obi is already on the way here. So in case he located Jar behind the bus there, which it seems like he didn't for the moment at least. Jar once again back into the locker here.
I mean, honestly, even if he did, he can just ignore him there, right? Because he's caught.
Yeah, I think we can just have a little bit of a standoff here in worst case. Generator still regressing. Jar now has the responsibility to rescue the team member, and that's not going to work out. 4K on 2 generators remaining. And Blue, that was one of the cleanest Huntress trials we have seen in a while. And I don't want to hear anyone saying Huntress is boring because of camping and hatchet holding. Obi has just shown us how amazing this killer can really be.
Obi-Wan snipes, proving the Huntress to be back to have been the perfect decision for comp, because look at this. This was so impressive. Honestly, now you're taking turns. How in the world is Seraph supposed to follow this? Like, what do you do now?
The answer to that is actually going to be brought in a cinematic version, because the survivors have quite some resources and quite some available strategies on this particular map.
Going to complete the task of having to keep these generators under control. You have one generator already very far away from everyone else. Let's look at the RNG. Maybe agitation can come in handy, but they do see decently split. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, if you want to make this happen with agitation, you definitely need a very quick down. Otherwise, you will have the responsibility to deliver the same amount of snipes that we have seen in the previous trial. So better getting a good early game here. Then agitation can really help you. But even then, holding a 3-gen will not be enough, as Elysium will be fine with 4 generators. There he is, Zeno, ladies and gentlemen, the team captain and one of the most experienced players in the entire community, leading the killer towards the edge of the map. Famous comp corner, as we call it in this community. And now you're going to find yourself in one of the pockets, though, on the outside of the map. Sometimes it's not about how long you run. Sometimes it's about dying in the correct spot. And we can see Marco, Pedro, they are all working on the other side on the generators. That increases the travel time for Certify after the hook and makes it impossible to monitor both the gen regression and the survivor on hook. So beautiful coordination from Elysium so far.
It highlights how important decision making is going to be, but also chases. Well, one key element, you need a lot of time for your team. Marco on the task, and Chase doesn't really have too many resources and another pellet, however, to be played around. Certified, trying to get the hit. Nice dodge, coming in, no stun, and he already breaks the chase because, once again, you know, these generators cannot be completed. Game sense coming in, but that's not the start you wanted to have. The survivor has been on hook, already being rescued. Xeno up and standing in the basement. It's a choice. Running out of the check once again. Now in chase.
Zeno dipping real quick in order to make sure that no hatchet can come through. This is generator number 1, ladies and gentlemen. A quarter of the win condition is reached. We have 2 healthy survivors, and I feel like Certify is doing a good job on these chases. The difference is really the fact that Obi in the previous trial has gotten a lot of these extra snipes, creating a lot of chaos across the trial. And here we see more of the classic Huntress gameplay, right? They are going more into these 1v1 focused chases. They are getting the down on one survivor and not across the board. And so far, that is really the outstanding difference between Elysium killer and Seraph killer.
You have to feel bad for Certified just a little bit, because there's no way you're going to shine as well as we did in the last trial, right? You can have a very great Huntress performance, you can have the expected result, and still I mean, listen, those snipes, they cast a really big shadow. But so far, we are trying to keep all of them busy. Xeno back off of the hook. Certify immediately breaking the chase from Pedro and trying to get the out on Xeno. Having an opportunity to maybe make his task just that much easier if there were only 3 survivors left to be standing in the trial. But is it possible?
And I feel like we're trying to get the elimination as quick as possible here. The difficulty with the elimination plan on only generator win con is usually that a killer like the Huntress, who doesn't count to the strongest, doesn't get it quick enough done. So let's see. Xeno very clearly just trying to waste time here, just going towards the edge of the map, and that could already been enough, since we're seeing that Oscar, Marco and Pedro are all grinding the generators at the same time. And even here, you're wasting another 5 seconds. We see the shack generator being the singular one. So the duo here is definitely going to finish their generator. It all depends how quick the Huntress can get the hook stage. Pedro is going to move here, expecting that Certify is coming over towards the shack now. And I also like this, right? Elysium could get very ahead of themselves now, and they could get very greedy, and in worst case even overcommitting. Ah, they have deadlock, never mind. No surprise that Pedro is moving over there. But still, they could still stay around here. Now we could see the survivors swarming around in the tile, being very, very confident. But we see Elysium entirely pulling back, taking a very safe approach, and already starting an alternative generator as well. And I really, really love that.
Also, keep in mind, Ruin is still standing, so even with a resource like that available to the killer, the survivors have been cranking out these gens. Great spotting of Pedro on this one. Once again, spotting where Hunter's gonna come from, seeing the red dot, then deciding on where to go, and I think this might just be a point in time where you break chase. I mean, yes, you're chasing around a generator that has a lot of progress, which is why you're tempted to stay in that place. But look at the other two, doubling the gen, getting closer and closer to completion and to the win condition of set number 1.
Now back towards here, we see how close it is, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few seconds away from the win condition. Certify really trying, and I think this needs to be pointed out. Certify is playing a good Huntress trial. We have some downs, we have some hook stages, we have some good game plan, right? Trying to eliminate the first survivor, getting that out of the way under normal circumstances. This is actually a good Huntress trial that we are seeing. The problem is just that Obi played right before this, and that unfortunately turns this into a loss for Seraph.
Yep, the fourth gen being completed already marks out win condition. Let's see, however, how much Certify can still bring to the table. Pedro going down now. Going to be another hook, but look at that, even the 5th gen already on the horizon.
Yeah, they are actually getting it done. This also means now, Blue, we are not just having a slight difference and just Elysium struggling their way towards the first set point here. They are making it very clear, and especially in case stages are walking out of the door here, it will be assigned towards Seraph, and we need to keep in mind Elysium will stay on the survivor side. So after playing a beautiful survivor trial like this, you definitely have yourself well prepared and set up for the next one. We actually see the save here. They want to take as many stages as possible out of the door and don't want to leave Pedro behind. They don't want to risk that Pedro is putting negative Steam comments on their profiles for just leaving him in the trial. Almost sniping Marco there, but just around the corner in time. We do see him now jumping out of the locker there. Very good work. Elysium constantly dragging the action into different locations on Rackers here, which makes it more difficult for Certified to keep the survivors under control. Very beautiful. We'll definitely see some escapes here.
Yeah. as mentioned, Pedro and Oscar just leaving the trial and certified, waiting for that Mori to at least kind of get some of the anger out, I guess. I mean, listen, if we talk about esports in general, momentum, as crazy as it might sound, it does play a big role, especially because it also impacts your mental game. And looking at Elysium coming off of some very great seasons, being possibly the team to beat, and then starting out like this, they have to feel amazing right now. And I promise you, it is going to help them in the next trial because they will have the motivation, feel a sense of safety, maybe.
Yeah, so what do you do with your team Seraph now? This is going to be the interesting question. We have the Ghoul coming up. And I would say Ghoul is definitely a killer where you can make a very impressive comeback because it's an S tier killer. We have average kills per game.
Performance, and let's look at how Kenshi can maybe redeem Seraph from our first set.
Hopefully Kenshi is not getting sniped with a long-range medkit that Zeno is going to throw in a second. Sorry, that joke was needed. Kenshi has now the big chance to make it up for the first trial here. So let's see, ladies and gentlemen, what Kenshi can deliver for us and the Ghoul here. And that is beautiful. That is exactly what we want to see. And that is so important, right? You can have a difficult trial. Things are not always going how you would like to have them in front of a big audience, especially. It can be pretty tricky. And then coming back with this early game here immediately with the injury and the deep wound onto Pedro is definitely really strong. Now we have the next one in chase. Zeno is going to be the targeted one. Never mind. We are going over here, checking on the generator. Kenshi unfortunately losing a little bit the momentum here. We had the very early injury blue, and now it's a little bit of downtime.
Ooh, but
nice.
Getting someone else tagged, being still in rage, having that third leap at your disposal. I mean, technically, you can play the Ghoul somewhat of a Legion-ish type of gameplay. You can try to get a lot of injuries across the board, and early down would also be a nice thing to have. Well, cancel. No hit coming in just yet. Having an early hook would be beneficial. Currently, it seems like he's in between playstyles, though. Not going for a hit-and-run type playstyle, but also not hard committing on one survivor, as we've already switched our chase once. But now Oscar going on the ground, the first hit coming in, no generator popping yet. Maybe now we're gonna pick up the speed a little bit.
Speed on the generators is definitely there. 50% over here, 75%. Important statistic coming in on Kenshi here. 1 minute 49 was the first down. That is almost an extra minute compared to the average first down time that we had in Season 10 so far. This really suits together with the downtime we have seen. So Kenshi needs to speed it up a little bit in the mid game. Seems to plan on that now. We have Oscar now rescued, but we have Zeno and Pedro being injured in exchange. So we are rising the number of injuries and pressure here. Very well done for Kenshi. That's going to be Zeno in the chase. Can it be a down, though? The answer is no, because we are going back. Wonderful here now getting Oscar as well, because we are trying to get the elimination. And since we are still on 5 generators, I feel like that is the perfect plan to go for.
You also have a lot of pressure running with 3 survivors being injured. They need to reset, they need to keep an eye on those generators, and maybe this is the perfect timing for Kenshi to get that down. Now vaulting over the pallet, trying to catch up to Oscar, getting that second stage out really quickly. However, first generator now coming into play. Oscar providing his team with important time to get time for this progress on those gens. A second one coming out. Now we really need this down, but Kenshi gets it. Let's see how much damage this can do to our generators, though, because we've already had the first pain rest. it doesn't really do as much, right, for Kenshi.
Yeah, we can. This is the question, right? The time right now. I think Kenshi has the correct idea here. I think tunneling out Oscar, especially when we talk about these A to S tier killers, is definitely the plan you want to go for. You have the upper hand. You are in the dominant role, so you decide if the survivor lives or not. At least you should be in that role. And so far, Kenshi is really making sure of that. The problem is the Elysium survivor team is really efficient on the generators, and these chases are still taking a little bit of time because, for example, here we have seen Xeno coming in, doing a little bit of protection. So all of these extra seconds, they are perfectly used. Oscar now waiting here, wanted that there's going to come the teleport. That's not going to happen. Xeno waiting with the firecracker though, but realizes it is not going to be the potential save here. So we are saying goodbye to Oscar. However, we have 1.5 generators still standing, as 2 survivors are currently over the 60% mark there, now getting interrupted here. But Elysium is definitely onto something. They want to get generator number 4 and 5 as quick as possible here, and I really hope they can stick to that. However, Kenshi finds the next injured survivor, and that now has the potential to become very dominant.
Inu now in the chase, dropping the firecracker, making his way around towards the next tile. It's a zero, though. Edge trap ending once again because he knows he's not allowed to go over there because the generators are being worked on. Gets the vault in time because the cancel took just a tad too long. The pallet being taken out now, and I think we don't like to chase Inu anymore, so let's switch targets really quick. Apply the kick to get an eruption as soon as there is another down for Kenji, and once again switching, trying to keep the map pressure high, finding Marco, so potentially the opportunity to get all the survivors injured.
And hopefully not only injured, but a little bit more, because we still need a little bit more than just the injuries here. We need to force the survivors away from the active generators, and the only way to achieve that is either downing them, forcing them into rotating for one another and picking them up, or we are hooking them and getting the unhooks on the to-do list. But here we can see Xeno just finishing a generator in time, and now we are chasing in the edge of the map right next to the generator that just got completed, meaning that these survivors can work on the generators on the other side of the map, resulting in a slug here. But even with the slug, I'm afraid that we might see the final generator popping. The question is, how high will the price be? We might see an endgame slug.
One person already on the ground, Pedro joining Xeno in this wall of crawling towards some sort of exit maybe. But Marco, the last one standing, the last one who's maybe able to put, well, some more entertainment on the table for us, dropping another pellet, prolonging this chase. He needs to drag this out until he can maybe pick up one of his teammates, but look at where we're going. It's pretty much dead. One more pellet, but where do you go after this? Well, it's a question that will never get answered because all 3 of them are on the ground. In another matchup, you would be able to ban them now, but we do not allow that. So Marco going onto the hook. It's his first hook stage, but this should very well mark the end of this trial.
That is indeed correct. For all the rule lovers, now the survivors would be allowed to self-unhook in order to speed up their death, as they are all downed and incapacitated. But the survivors need to make sure, if they are now successful with this unhook attempt to speed it up, they need to stay under the hook and they cannot move, and quickly re-allow the kill. And Kenshi here now trying to find Xeno, who theoretically also has the chance for a hatch escape. As all of the generators have been completed, we are going to count a hatch escape. Shouldn't happen because the hatch location is forced in the competitive matches, so the killers and survivors know where it's spawning. So in cases like these, the killer will always have the advantage and close the hatch in time. But you never know here. Xeno definitely made quite some distance.
Someone's trying to hide. Not mentioning any names. But as you said, we know where Hedge is going to spawn, so
Oh,
there you go.
I was not expecting him over here.
Wow! Oh, Xeno now also being on hook. Is it the expected result, Daya?
It definitely is. The 4K definitely makes a lot of sense here. So we are going to have our 12 stages for Team Seraph. Very well done. Judging the end gameplay that we have seen at the end, I do think that Team Elysium really agreed on getting that final generator by all costs, risking some extra stages, because whoever plays the Ghoul on the Elysium side is confident that they can get a generator.
If they weren't able to reset right off the bat, that was what resetted their mindset. But for now, let's see how Xeno is going to perform on the Ghoul. Already spotting Ja, getting him the first injury. Let's see, the first chase. First pellet also being down, making the way around, already catching up. And it's the vault, and down. This one was a quick one. Xeno already has a heads up.
That is an absolute fantastic first down. We remember, ladies and gentlemen, we had a downtime of 1:49 in the previous trial. And in opposite to that, we are now seeing Xeno here keeping it very, very short and being very, very efficient. 25 seconds. Ladies and gentlemen, that is even quicker than the nurse down that we have seen earlier. 25 seconds. Xeno signing up as the record holder here. So essentially, Blue, we are talking about a difference already of 1 minute 20 on the killer side. This is something that Seraph's survivor side already needs to make a comeback for.
Also mentioning the dying light. Having this early of a first hook, having to make a comeback from that, and then also that's going to stack towards the end, and it is going to bite you in the buttocks. Uh-oh, this might be a difficult one. So now pressure is even higher on the survivors of Team Seraph. Oh, that was a close one. To keep this one going and to keep Xeno in check.
And yeah, he wants more. He's immediately back. Ja is the elimination target, just like in the previous trial. You want to cut down the survivor team to 3v1. Important is now that you're delaying the tunnel out as much as possible, potentially even sending some team members over, trying to go for a potential pallet save. First generator being completed now. Nice patience there by Ja, waiting first, then dropping the pallet and extending the length of this loop. But there it is, actually. Zaf is coming back, but look at Xeno. He just uses the main building to get ahead of the body block. What a 200 IQ attempt only, unfortunately, as the survivors reacted just as quickly. But this is such a great back and forth between these two teams now. Nice idea by Xeno. Instant counterplay by Seraph. This is peak gameplay right here.
I love seeing what the survivors are doing right now, coming in for the body block. Also, Ja doing a hell of a job on keeping Xeno on his toes. Now we already switched our targets, so it's not going to plan just yet. Zaphis, however, taking it down, so it is going to be a next hook. But look at that, 3 generators out of the way so far. Seraph's survivors are shining.
They're absolutely shining, yeah. And the great news is here. We have not Ja on the hook, right? They wanted to make sure that the tunnel out isn't allowed, and they got Ja out of the attention. It is now Zaf on the hook, Kenshi taking the injury, but Ja, who was on the hook before, is back to healthy. Along with that, we have 3 generators completed already. 2 are on the side of Xeno so far. So we now have to come back and pick a new tunnel out target. And look how good Xeno is doing that. Coming cross map here with the instant deep wound onto Zafis. So it seems like we're trying to tunnel this survivor now. Hopefully that's going to work out though, because if Seraph keeps playing like this, denying the tunnel out, being efficient on the gens, they have a good chance of pulling the win here.
You love to see it. Acid with another tag. Xeno being right behind him now, maybe trying to get in front, body blocking something, but he knows just running after him will do the trick. Acid on the ground. It is going to be another threshold though, so the tunnel out not near in sight for now. I mean, you also aren't allowed to go after Kenji because of your dying light, and you see how slow these generators are starting to become at gaining this progress. It's going to get more and more annoying to have to play against this dying light.
Kenji now back with the deep wound here as well. Zafis making sure that he's not going to be eliminated. This is fantastic what Seraph is doing here at the moment. They are not allowing Xeno's game plan to turn into reality here. We are going back towards the shack, where we hear a little bit of generator progress. Xeno definitely up to something. We see the generators are mostly scattered towards the shack side now, so almost 40% of the Blood Lodge are completely dead zone for the survivors now. And I think this was what Xeno was figuring out as an alternative to Jar not being the immediate tunnel out at the beginning, setting up a generator fortress instead. Now trying to defend that, and unfortunately Jar decides to go for the double vault instead of staying on the outside of the loop here. That's going to be the rehook, and that's going to be only 1 good minute until the elimination there. But still impressive there with 4 survivors here. We love to see it, Blue.
Yeah, I am kind of worried though, because everyone's still injured. It was an impressive eruption. We saw many gens pop. And now Xeno is starting to feel like he's gaining back control. He had another survivor on the ground. Acid still waiting for someone to rescue him. Now popping these generators again, trying to get him to regress because he knows these survivors are now being forced to really go for a reset. Hello, Kenji. Mending is now required if Xeno lets you do that, because he's the new target. Not sure if you want to chase him now, since he is your dying light, but that's going to make resetting a hell of a lot harder. Really nice leap in front of Acid, blocking every resources and putting him right back onto the ground.
Right back onto the ground here, and that's going to be now good news, however, to all the fans of Seraph, because we are going to have again a good minute until the elimination. Somehow they are able to keep cycling through the entire survivor team, making sure that 4 survivors are able to attack the generators and staying in the trial here. Xeno on to the survivors here. Zaf is going to take down Xeno, actually just going to grab that. Was a short hesitation, I felt like. Wanted to check if it might be a good idea to just go for the slug play, but we're taking what we have guaranteed. This is now going to be the next second stage, and therefore we have eliminations on our hand from now on. The generators have come to a standstill. This time, Blue, due to all of these amazing injuries and so many resets being needed, Xeno really giving them a lot of tasks to take care of.
Yeah, he's back in control. Kenji also on the generators, and now starting to focus on putting the last 2 generators out of the trial, I feel like. I'm still somewhat worried because we've been cycling through these survivors and already there is an out. And we have 2 more survivors, which is going to be Acid and Zafis, who are also on deathhook. It's going to get harder as we speak. A 4th generator coming up though. The tie is still up for grabs.
We are having the next phase over. We have the next phase over here. Zaf is taking the deep wound, and we are circling around the fun bus. Will we get a quick down? That's the question here. And instead, we are going to let them go back onto the generator over here with a double up. Very understandable. You want to make sure that this final generator is coming out as quick as possible, because remember, everyone, we also need some outs if we want to be successful here. And right now, it more looks like a 4K with all generators done, if you are asking me.
Which could mark our first tie. of today. Oh, catching Acid off guard, however, once again giving him another task, having to mend, having to spend some time on getting yourself ready to complete this gens. However, talking about generators, we do have the kick protection slowly but surely coming into play, so Xeno needs to start getting another survivor out of the trial, or at least needs to start ending the trial, honestly, because if he doesn't, a last generator could pop. He's possibly feeling the pressure, spotting the reset spot though. This is huge.
Seraph is saying goodbye once more here. Not going to face the hook though, as Xeno, he just wants acid now. And even this deep wound is already enough to slow down the generator one more time, because we do have to find a good and safe spot over there. We have to take care of the deep wound for a couple of seconds. So this entire time that Xeno needs to hook that survivor, Acid was just busy with the deep wound. Little bit of a mind game here. Xeno now decides to just apply the deep wound, and that's going to be Kenshi now pulling back out of the area here, actually going towards the shack. So it should be the main generator or the one behind main. Yeah, over here, who is now getting attacked. Going for the next one, trying to block the window there. Just a centimeter off, but a good attempt by Xeno, and Kenshi needs to run for the lifetime, but we are having the down right there, and that's going to be the final survivor located. So blue, we're looking towards a 4K on 1 gen remaining, meaning that Elysium steps even more ahead with now 2-0 on the set points.
I have to say though, during the trial it was all up for grabs for Team Seraph. I was very impressed with what they did at the beginning. They managed to, well, not have Xeno be able to play as he's planned this trial out, but at some point he gained control back of the trial. He was the person in power. He decided what was going to happen and which tasks the survivors have to focus on. They did try to focus all on the objective to get that last generator popping, but it just didn't work out. And I think, honestly, the Dying Light did play a huge part in this. However, yes, our current scoreline is going to be a 2-0 for Team Elysium. I don't think the scoreline accurately represents the way this trial went, however.
Yeah, Xeno delivered, we could say. Elysium will be very, very happy. And it is important for them that they are going to win basically 3-0, right? Because so far we only have 2 teams that managed to win 3-0. It was Invictus versus Oracle, and it was Ariandel against Wix earlier. All the other teams, like Knock-On, Cynic, they have dropped sets and therefore not on the 100% win con, or like the 100% set win percentage anymore. So Elysium has a chance to make sure that they are just keeping up with the top 2 and then turning it into top 3 and not falling behind on the... Let's see if Xeno is playing... Oh, it's actually Obi. Sorry, Obi. I didn't want to take that. I didn't want to take that from you. So, Obi, we will find out, Blue. This is very interesting. We're going to find out if Obi is playing an amazing trial, producing some magic for us, or if he's getting outed and then he would only be a mid-witch on the magical part. Did you get it? What a nice one for this map. I love it. I love it just for this reason.
I would like to formally apologize to Flightless at this point. Please come back to me. Please cast it again.
Yeah, off we go. Zaf is in the first chase here, and Obi very clearly just wanting some injuries here as well. With the sloppy coming out, usually you're trying to either increase the healing time, or you are forcing some mental pressure, and the survivor saying, let's not heal their sloppy in the trial. Quick injury here onto Zafis. Let's see, Blue, if he can make that happen. This is not the strongest palette.
Oh, trying to get out is going to be a hard one. Faking the teleport. Ubi now making his way over towards the drop. But not happening. Ubi with an early first down. Already a great start into the trial. However, look at these survivors. They've been on the pressure. They've been on the objective. First generator coming out just in time.
First generator in exchange for the first hook stage always feels pretty good. Obi getting rid of some locked lockers in order to turn them into some unlocked lockers, because the locked lockers are not nice lockers. Unlocked lockers are the better lockers among the locked lockers that you can find on this locker-based map. We are going after the next survivor. That's going to be Ja. Let's see if we have a bit more patience in the mind games. Seems to be the case. Very well done, Ja, turning into the monster here, getting the stun onto Obi and taking that good distance and time for him and the team. We are getting back towards the hooked survivor. Checking real quick, is there anyone rotating? The answer is no. And now we're scouting the hallways a little bit. I feel like Obi tries to find a good mix here between scouting and guarding. But we also had some downtime after this hook stage. We don't have the biggest pressure in terms of other injuries across the board.
Also, Kenji is going to get one generator out of the game just in time for nightfall. Survivors really doing their job. Got pellet for Mathis, but the hit is going to come through early enough to prevent him from dropping that one. So Obi does get provided with a second stage onto Mathis. However, look at it. Look at this generator progress. It's going to be a basement hook, which will be one hell of a task for the survivors. However, for now, there will be a third generator popping. That's inevitable. I have to say, while there is still everything possible for 4K from Obi, I do like what the survivors are doing, Daya.
Absolutely, yeah. It feels like our survivor team has really stepped up throughout the trials here. The Huntress wasn't the best. I don't think we need to go deeper and put salt into the wound there. But then in the Ghoul trial, definitely nice attacking of the generators, nice coordination. And now it seems like they have found the full form and being warmed up, ready to apply pressure, ready to get rid of the objectives here. So I agree, it looks really, really strong.
We need to get it out. We do have some map pressure already. John Acid being injured. Zaf is still on the hook. Someone needs to get him out of this trial, unless you're confident to get all generators out of the way, even with 3 people still standing. The only full life survivor being in chase, and so many lockers in the basement. Zafis, I'm sorry. Goodbye, brother. You'll have to leave this trial. So now it's going to look a whole lot better for Obi. I think a reset would be very beneficial for these survivors, but looking at the Dredge's power, it's going to be pretty easy to spot them.
Yeah, let's hope that they are going to have a safe time in the library here, that they can find the reset. It would be really important now to have 3 healthy survivors again that are able to attack these objectives. Obi, that is going to be 1, that is 2, so 1 more volt, and then you know it's guaranteed. So Obi definitely in a trap now. If he goes for the vault again, there would be the teleport, and that means that Kenshi is falling into that trap. Obi just taking the injury here, moving back into 2-1 survivor injured now. So the survivors taking a little bit of an advantage here. 1 injury is new, 2 injuries were just healed. I think it would be even a great idea to meet up with Kenshi, reset the pressure of Obi entirely, and then split across the generators here. I think that should be the game plan.
On the other hand, Obi now knows that 2 of these survivors have not been on the objective, so that takes pressure off of him a little bit, because he knows that he doesn't have to worry as much on the objective. Now, with the killer instinct coming in, this marks danger for Kenji. He's not a stranger to Obi, but he's going to put him on the ground shortly, because nope, no pellet for him. Eruption coming out. This generator still regressing. Yeah, we need to put a little more progress onto this one. But like you said, the reset coming in, definitely the right choice for our survivors. But now they're in a difficult situation. So many tasks they have to take care of.
So many tasks indeed. The to-do list getting longer and longer. Nice one from Acid here, keeping the pallet and making sure that the injury is not coming through. Obi going back towards the upper floor, taking a look at the hooked survivor. Doesn't want to let the survivors take it. Knows that one survivor might be over here. Yeah, we see the scratch marks. Ooh. Now going back towards trying the mind game here. Survivor not going to fall for it. Well played by Jar. But that's going to be the interruption of the save. So Acid needs to move around if Kenshi isn't supposed to go into the second stage here. And all of this back and forth definitely keeps them busy, keeps them away from the active generators. So as long as Obi continues to have this pressure, he either gets hook progress, or at least he's making sure that the survivors are constantly running around. Jar, unfortunately, now bamboozled, so that might take a very quick turn here, Blue.
An Acid being found. This is disastrous for the survivors of Team Seraph. Obi doing such a great job right now, and this has to be a trade if you want to do anything. But even if you trade that, how are you going to recover from this? You need to commit to that one. You will get it, but it's going to be a trade. What now? There's no balance landing in this trial. There is a pellet, however. Block him off. Try to get your mate, but we took a different route. Navigation is key sometimes, and I fear this could be a bit of a stare down, but I fear this will mark, or could mark, a 4K and 2 generators left.
Yeah, 2 generators left is, according to our tournament analyst, the expectable result, one of the expectable results. 4K2 or 4K1. The problem is when you are down by 2 set points, Blue, you don't want to play according to an expected result. You want to go beyond that. And unfortunately, yeah. Unfortunately, it didn't happen.
I mean, it's not the worst result. You did play expectedly, right? So it wasn't a bad performance at all. We need to highlight this because just from the scorelines, Team Seraph doesn't look the best right now, and they're looking worse than they actually are performing. I'd like to put emphasis on that. They are not doing as bad as it looks right now. However, it needs to be better in order to keep Elysium from taking the 3-0 and then having an expected result, but not the 4K1, but the 4K2 even. I don't know how do you recover from this. Even if you... And then the another thing is, even if you were to tie this, Elysium still takes the win. Because you're not able to win 2 sets, which is another thing that comes into play. You have no option but to win this set.
Yeah, you're right. Tie wouldn't even be enough. The only thing you would do for yourself, or the only thing that you would really do with the tie is definitely you would hurt Elysium.
Yeah.
Because they are going to have a lower set win percentage. So if you want to, stab Elysium a little bit in the back before you're taking the loss, then you can definitely go for the tie. But I think what you mentioned is really important, right? And important for all the Seraph fans at home. We need an actual win. A tie would mean we have only one more set, and a 2-1 will not help. So
on a lesser ping, I believe. So they're continuing to play for now. Still, Pedro is seen, but we don't want to continue the chase for now. Let's check on these other gens, especially with the ruling being in play. This could very well pay off. Second survivor being found. We did see the scratch marks trying to catch up to them during a teleport through the lockers who weren't locked. So Oscar is getting a first hit. Let's see if this drop is going to be a faster one. I do believe last trial's start was a better one than this one already, but we are still having the same issue. So it's interesting that the survivors are able to keep up this type of performance even on ping. Oh, a difficult position to be in for Oscar. No pellet in this room, so no other choice than to go down on the edge map. Andy, is it an edge map, Andy? I don't know. I mean, we're on the top of the map, right? Debatable. What's not debatable is that this is our first look.
Yeah, so news from the back end, it seems like we are fine. It's stabilized itself. Survivors are under playable conditions and on relatively normal pings. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can luckily play out this eventually, or maybe the final trial, potentially. We'll see how Kenshi is performing here. Sorry a little bit about the back and forth here and me handing it over to Blue. You can imagine it's always a very difficult decision for all of us. It needs to be taken in just a couple of seconds because you don't want to play too far into the trial and then call a restart. But it seems like we are now good to go. First generator so far, second hook stage about to come out for Oscar. But considering the win condition, Blue, it might actually be a realistic play that they are just leaving one survivor hanging, potentially even all the way into sacrifice, and just take care of the generators. When you need 4 gens, you definitely have the potential to do that.
And it feels like a situation where Kenshi is only able to lose because if you have one survivor hovering, in case Kenshi leaves because he realizes the survivors are gonna go just pressure the objective. Oh, that hurts as well. But either you're going to waste a lot of time or you're going to lose the survivor on hook. So leaving Marco on the ground might just be the right move. I like seeing this. Now we've spotted a second survivor, but a second generator has also come into play already.
We continue here in the yard, finding Oscar though. Marco and Oscar on the ground now. Not entirely sure if that was part of the plan, seeing the flashlight attempt. It looked like it was discussed and anticipated. Unfortunately though, that rescue came in a little bit late. At least Marco is back on the feet, but Oscar here finding the elimination. We need 2 more generators, ladies and gentlemen. That looked a little bit funny there. They were resetting, then they see the killers coming and they're gonna drop the pallet in order to say, not for you!
Actually,
Kenshi, therefore,
they need only 1 generator more, because, as we've mentioned earlier, a tie is not enough.
Yeah.
Which means Kenshi needs a 4K right now.
Yeah, we are planning though with the Elysium dream result, right? Because I feel like it would be so sad if you're totally right. Next generator will decide it for Elysium. It would just be so sad if 1 gen is missing to a clean 100% set win.
I mean, yeah, but we believe in Kenshi, right? I mean, listen, it's maybe not likely, but it's not impossible. The silence is
Kenshi, very interesting character for me today in this matchup here. As said, stepped up multiple times, took responsibility to move on, and was really trying the best for Seraph to create good win conditions. And then it was always just a little bit that was missing there. So we're back here into the next locker teleport. This is now the chaos that we are talking about, Blue. We need some injuries here and there. We need to force them into longer resets with the sloppy. I feel like, though, we can see it wonderfully here. Elysium is really doing a good job delaying all of these downs. And they gain 10 seconds here, 15 seconds there. But all of this can potentially lead into the next generator.
And it feels like Kenshi can only make the wrong choice. It makes sense to continue the chase next to a generator that has this much progress, but the chase has been going on too long. But if you leave this, the survivor's going to hop back on the gen because it already had a lot of progress. You need instant downs like this one on Marco, but once again, you can't afford to pick him up really, because that's going to mean the last generator popping that we've needed for Elysium to take the win. The only question remaining is, and this is one that you've been pushing there, is it going to be clean 3-0?
Is it a clean 3-0? That is indeed the question. For 100% set win, we need one additional gen. This is the chance now that Seraph has, leaving a little bit of a disadvantage to Team Elysium and also placing themselves better by not losing 3-0 but only 2-0, jumping into the locker here. Zeno going to take care of that. We are gone.
Okay, bye.
Did I just lag, or did we decide to just leave it like that and allow the unhook? Blue? Statements?
Choices. But listen, it's a choice, and we run with it. We have another chase. We have all survivors back standing. They're still half-life. Petro on the ground. And then that might be another hook. The other two survivors once again on the generator. Xeno on one that has a lot of progress, but the pain rest coming in. So maybe that's what we were aiming for, another pain rest to interrupt the generator progress, but can't help but feel like he could have closed it.
Yeah, we really were close to it, right? I think the thought process of the situation before was really interrupting that generator, because they really want to make sure that they take a tie at least out of this. So it is kind of understandable why he let Zeno go. It just was such a timing that we were all thrown off here, even behind the scenes a little bit. Marco now going down right here. Zeno back onto it. I hope Elysium also realizes that it's not only the needed, like, that they are not only taking the win here, but this is needed for 100% set win, and this is now not the case. I'm not entirely sure if Elysium was aware of that, but they are definitely not going to take the 100% now. They're gonna sit on 66.6 match win percentage, and therefore taking the tie together with Knock-On behind Ariandel and Invictus. But congratulations to Elysium taking the win here. If you are asking yourself, why is it now going to be over? We still have a set. Well, Elysium has 2 set points. We are not replaying ties, so we only have one more set, and one more set doesn't help to gain a tie overall or force Seraph to win. It would be only a 2-1. So the game is decided, and we are going to say goodbye to Pedro, Zeno, and Marco that are going to be eliminated in a second. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to close week number 1. I think it is safe to say that we have seen the most fantastic trials in a very long time. All of the matches were absolutely stunning. The players were not handing anything out for free. They were fighting for every single stage and generator. So yeah, I really love what we have seen in week 1 so far. And Blue, that was only the opening weekend. There's so much more to come.